Hey everybody, welcome you have to watch this podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Ryan.
And today we're going to talk about a movie Ryan had never seen.
Yep.
It is probably the hottest day of the year right now.
I think the hottest day of the year was like 2 days ago, where it was like 105.
It's still up there though.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, no, it was 96
So-
on the temperature gauge on my dash when I pulled
Yeah.
up. Oh,
So, in honor of the summer, we are going to talk about a little film called Wet Hot American Summer. This is a comedy from 2001,
Yeah.
directed by David Wayne.
mhm.
And stars a bunch of people that you've heard of
I
before
was
you
actually
knew who they
surprised.
were. So yeah, this is a little cult comedy. I think the first time I saw this was probably when I started dating my wife a few years ago,
Yeah.
and since then I've watched the prequel series on Netflix and started the sequel series, but she owns it on DVD, so we started watching it.
Yeah.
She showed me that, and I was like, that's a funny movie. I can watch that
Okay.
whenever.
So that's the connection with Netflix that this has.
Yes, it got 2 spin-offs.
Okay, because that's what confused me about this entire thing, because it starts off with being the last day of summer.
Yeah,
And you've always told me that. So I've always thought that it was like a modern made movie that came out recently that was a prequel to an actual 80s movie for some reason. Like, I've always thought that in my head.
okay.
It might be because I've seen previews for the prequel thing on
Yeah.
Netflix that I always thought that it was like a carryover or something.
Yeah, my brother watched the series on Netflix. He's like, this is really good. I was like, well, did you watch the movie? He's like, no.
There's a movie.
There's a movie. What's great about the TV series and the movie is the last day of camp.
Yeah.
Then the first series is the first day of camp, and it's 15 years later. So you have all the same actors coming back playing the same roles, who are supposed to be younger than they are in the movie, but they're all 15 years older. So they've aged, they've gained weight, like the only person who looks the same is Paul Rudd.
Well, of course. Paul Rudd is ageless.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I was introduced to the movie. What did you think of it?
To be honest, it's a cult classic, and it shows. There were a couple funny moments in it for me, but other than that, like it. We talked about Mel. We talked about Mel Brooks
Yes.
and his films, and I went on a little bit of a rant about why I like older comedies compared to like newer comedies. And this film, for me, is kind of an example of a newer comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I get, like, it was pretty, from what I took of it, it was more of a satire comedy. Like, it was making fun of all of the, quote unquote teenager movies that were made in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, it was making fun of that, like you've got the core group of guys and girls that are hooking up with each other left and right or trying to. But then it did throw other narratives into it, which I did like, with the assistant professor and
David
camp
Hyde Pierce.
director.
Yeah.
Like that storyline. The storyline with Stabler being the chef.
Yeah.
So like there were different things in it that I did like. It's just the whole like teenage hooking up thing left and right, and the one scene that made me actually roll my eyes was at the very end when she was like, I'm 16, I'm just looking for sex.
Yeah.
Like that, like I'm just like, oh my god, okay, this is a cult movie. Like,
Yeah, I said to my wife, because we watched it together yesterday for the podcast,
yeah.
and I was like, Ryan's gonna hate this movie. I just have a feeling he's not gonna like it.
I mean, I didn't absolutely hate it. I can tell that it's a cult film, and I
Yeah.
can see where people can find this funny. It's the same. This movie's in the same category for a lot of people that Starship Troopers is for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horrible movie. It's corny as hell. Only a few people like it, and I like it because it's corny.
Yeah.
It fits the mold for me. This movie fits the mold for other people. That's perfectly fine. It's just, yeah.
Regardless of it, if you like it or not.
Yeah.
There's some huge talent in this
Oh
movie.
no!
And
That's
I know,
the thing.
I know,
Like
yeah.
the top actors, like right now, like some of the top actors right now, or have been hot for the past like 7 years, are in this movie.
Yeah, so you've got Paul Rudd, who we've talked about,
Yeah.
Elizabeth Banks,
Mm-hmm.
Amy Poehler,
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper in his first film,
Yeah.
and then you've got a bunch of people who are known for comedy. So you've got Molly Shannon, Janine Garofalo, Elizabeth Banks, if I didn't say her already. It's just a huge cast.
Oh yeah.
And even the guy who plays Coop, he's Michael Showalter. He directed The Big Sick, which was a huge movie last year.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get to see that yet?
Not yet.
Oh, I'm gonna have to make you watch that.
That's fine.
Because it's really good. It's nothing like this.
Oh yeah.
Have you probably never seen any other David Wayne stuff, have you?
I don't know, to be honest, if I have or not.
Do you know of The State? It was an MTV show in the 90s.
State?
The State. It was
The
it was a comedy show.
No.
Okay, that's where this movie came from.
That's what it kind of felt like. Like it felt like it was a bunch of people that did skits with each other.
Yeah. Because you've got the whole the comedy group Stella is in here.
Yeah.
With Michael Showalter, Michael Ian Black, and I think David Wayne.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got Bradley Cooper. I know you haven't seen the series yet, but and you probably won't, judging by how you like the movie. But when they brought everyone back for the series, they couldn't keep everyone because of everyone's schedules. They couldn't get everyone all at once.
Yeah.
So when they got Bradley Cooper in for like a few days, and then they wanted his character in the whole thing. So in the prequel, he becomes DJ Bagface.
Okay.
So he's DJing the party with a paper bag over his face, and you just hear his voice, and it's totally not Bradley Cooper. And it's completely ridiculous, but it still makes sense for the movie. Like it still works.
Yeah.
And then for the sequel series, they just recast him completely with Adam Scott.
Okay. Well, I mean,
or do you think people are gonna make fun, like tease me from my plastic surgery?
God. Well, I mean, okay, so stuff like that, I might actually watch a show, but I mean, it's fun when they do stuff like that. Like they didn't get the same person.
Yeah.
They know the mood of the show, so they're just gonna make a plastic surgery joke and just carry on, and nobody's gonna question anything. Like that's perfect. Yeah.
I like the prequel series. I haven't finished the sequel.
Yeah.
Because they say in the movie, let's all meet up here in 10 years.
And then at the end of the movie, they have that thing where he walks in at the end. In the credits.
I didn't watch the credits. I forget what happened.
Okay. So they have the song playing, and it's all of the notes up on like the corkboard. You watch it for a couple of minutes, and then you see everybody like 10 years later. It's 1991. And so you've got the... lack of a better term, you've got like the slut characters.
Yeah.
Like they're wearing like high fashion for that time period.
Yeah.
And the ones wearing that white dress suit skirt thing from oh man. That scene, so much controversy. She's being interrogated. She swings her legs.
Oh, Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct. She's wearing that type of a like dress. And then you have all the rest of them. They're all wearing like high fashion for the 90s. Okay. And then the one guy walks in and goes, "Oh, I thought we said we were meeting at 9:30." And then the one goes, "Oh, no. We said 9, so we'd all be here by 9:30." And he goes, "Oh, cool." And then it just cuts to the normal credits.
I think this is a first for the podcast where you watched the post-credit scene and I didn't.
Well, to be honest,
I've probably seen it before, but I just forget about it.
It's. I just watched it this morning.
What's weird about this movie is there are scenes in this that I don't remember from viewing to viewing. Like yesterday watching it, I completely didn't remember the whole we got to play the other team in baseball from the other camp. And like, no, wait, this is very cliche. Let's not do this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay, guys. They're cool. We're not going to do this. Like, I was like, what the hell is it? Like, I completely forgot about that joke.
Well, that
And it's probably
And
my
that's-
favorite joke of the movie.
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, it was mine because, like I said, this thing's a satire. Now, granted, this movie was made in 2001. 2001. You could now. I don't know of any other camp movies or shows, but I know that there have been. The only one I can think of is Heavyweights.
Yes.
But I know that there's others than that.
Yes. Well, my wife and I talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Actually, keep going on your thoughts.
So, I mean, the fact that I know these movies exist. Heavyweights exist. Heavyweights was basically a more adolescent version of the other movies that had been out about the same topic. Not, an overweight camp, but just a summer camp. And to be perfectly honest, being a camp counselor myself when I was younger, I can't think of a camp that I've ever been to or heard anybody going to that is set up like the ones in those movies or like this movie. Because I know it's a comedy and I know it's satire, but I've never known anybody or seen an actual summer camp where it's random kids that aren't involved in some other type of organization that go with young, very young adults or older teenagers being camp counselors.
Okay.
I've never seen that setup before, ever.
Okay. So what is your, this gets into my one question I had for the podcast today. Did you ever go to camp? I'm assuming you did because you were in the Scouts.
I went to, granted it was Boy Scouts, so it's kind of a different experience, but it was, you had the dining hall. So like in the movie, you have a dining room building. You have a crafts center. Now, it wasn't a building. It was more like a hut. Like there wasn't any windows. There was think of a pavilion with benches lining up.
Yeah.
And then with like picnic benches on the inside. And then you had the swimming area where the docks were. So that was pretty much exactly the same. The one thing that they didn't have was like some type of shooting range. Like we had a rifle range and a shotgun range and an archery range. And then you had like the science area where you went over like learning about animals and taking care of those merit badges, stuff like that. And then eventually I was on staff. So the funny thing at the beginning for me, like my second favorite part of the movie is when they show them around the campfire doing stupid stuff, doing things that would probably get them fired if the parents knew that they were doing. That's what it was like at Boy Scout camp. Like after
you're talking about the opening scene?
Yeah, the very opening scene. Because being on staff, when the campers weren't around, we had our own cheers. We had our own skits that we did. After the troops would leave like the fire pit area where everybody did their skits and their songs, they would go out and go up to like the trading post and go to their campsites where they had giant tents that were metal framed canvas tents on pallets.
Yeah.
And we would wait till they were out of earshot. And we had a song about nitroglycerin that was laced with profanity. We had another song that was about a guy that was about to lose his virginity and he slipped on the edge of the bed and broke his neck on the bedpost. Like there's weird songs that just staff members did because we were over the age of 18. We're not, 14, 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
Like there's things that, bring us together and we find funny. So I like the fact that it showed that part of it. And then the whole going into town thing.
Okay.
Because because whenever anybody went into town, everybody wanted to go.
Did you end up shooting up heroin?
No, that's the example of a modern comedy where they just go a little bit too far, where it stops being funny.
What's great about them going into town is it just keeps escalating and escalating.
Oh,
it doesn't go. You can't go any worse than in a crack den shooting up heroin.
Yeah,
and then they just like that's David Wayne, like just the most extreme example of partying that you can do.
Yeah,
and then like.
They come back and they're fine.
Yeah, come back and they're fine.
Yeah. So now, when we were, for anybody listening who's in like northern, eastern PA, it was up in the Poconos. And I'm not going to say the name of the camp just because I don't know what the legality of stuff like that is. But whenever somebody would go into town, everybody had different nights that they were off. And whenever you would reach like a Monday or Wednesday, you didn't have to go to dinner. with the rest of the camp, like you and the five guys, or even you and the female who was on staff, would all go out, and we would go to like Perkins, or we would go to Red Robin, or we would go into Walmart. And this I will say, my funniest thing I've ever done in a Walmart, I ran out of that store.
Oh, really?
And I was 18, and this is when and this was after they employed me. So
Okay.
I did this after the fact. We're in Walmart, the Mount Pocono Walmart. I'll say that. The Mount Pocono Walmart. And we're raiding the DVD bin because we had a DVD player in the staff room on the TV. And everybody's like putting their hands as far down as they can into like the $5 bin of DVDs to try to pull it to see what's in there. Well, I've never seen a dump bin. And that's the terminology. You've got the crate that all the DVDs sit in, is a dump bin. I put my hand all the way down to the bottom, and I thought I grabbed a DVD. I grabbed a latch, and I pulled up. And the bottom part of the dump bin on the side opened up, and all of the DVDs fell out and onto the floor. Like, and I'm talking like it made a sound as if somebody like knocked over a pyramid of like cans.
Wow.
Like, that's the noise level. And we scattered like cockroaches.
That's
like
crazy.
We just ran. I ran out of the store, and this was after we were told by an employee to stop throwing a bouncy ball back and forth over the gondola, over the aisle divider.
Yeah.
So we were already causing problems. People were already looking at us. Now, we weren't wearing any scout uniforms. We were wearing normal stuff, so there was nothing there to tie us to the actual camp.
Yeah.
But still.
So you only ever went to Boy Scout camp?
I only went to Boy Scout camp, and then I also did, with Scouts, a different type of camp, which was junior leadership training. That was something completely different. But I've only been to that.
I've been to Boy Scout camp, and I went 2 years, but I didn't go consecutive. 2 years back to back, so I had to do everything over again the second year I went, which was stupid.
Yeah,
and I still am pissed about that.
Yeah.
But then I also went to a camp, kind of like the one in the movie.
Yeah.
Where it's not really an organization. It was a YMCA camp, but I don't really count that. Yeah. So it was co-ed.
Yeah.
Pretty close to what the camp in.
So you have them. So these things do actually exist.
Yeah, and the one I'm talking about is close to Carlisle.
Oh.
So it's up in Pine Grove.
Oh, interesting.
But what's interesting is this movie was filmed in Pennsylvania. Out towards the Poconos.
That makes sense now because it looked familiar.
Yeah.
Like the surrounding area looked
familiar. It was
familiar.
filmed at Camp Towanda in Honesdale.
Is that the one that they filmed Friday the 13th at?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
It'd be funny if it was.
I've never seen Friday the 13th.
I've only seen bits and pieces of it. I'm not a slasher person.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about other camp movies. Yeah. And the only one you could think of was Heavyweights?
Well, it's because I know that they're out there, but like I said, I'm not a fan of more of like the modern comedy. And there are some 80s comedies that I love, but there's a lot that I don't.
Yeah.
And like my comedy era comes from the 70s and 60s. And I would say the oldest comedy that I like is Dr. Strangelove, How I Learned to Love the Bomb.
Yeah.
That is the oldest comedy that I like. And then like the newest comedy that I actually do like watching is The Hangover, because it reminds me of a lot of the Mel Brooks stuff.
You know, you brought up Dr. Strangelove. Never seen it.
That's our next one.
Yeah. I knew as soon as you said it.
Like it.
Yeah.
And just remember, the thing was filmed in the thing was filmed in the late 50s.
Just while you're talking, another camp movie that popped up to me was Meatballs.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
I don't think I've seen Meatballs either, but if I did, it was a long time ago.
Same here, and I think that might, like, I watched Salute Your Shorts on Nickelodeon as a kid, and I think maybe because there was Salute Your Shorts, Dude's Ranch, or I always call it Hey Dude, even though I know that's not the name, or one of the two is the name.
Hey Dude is the name.
Yeah, Hey Dude. Wild and Crazy Kids, like that. It was during that time. I was probably like maybe 5 or 6 years old when that was going, And I didn't even like Salute Your Shorts that much. So I think it just might be the whole camp thing. I love Heavyweights just because of the idea of it and the fact that you have like a comic genius in the movie.
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller. Yeah.
You're not talking about Paul Feig?
Well, that too.
Have I told my Paul Feig story on the podcast?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't. Well, I know we haven't done the Heavyweights poster analyzation on the podcast.
Yeah, but we never did that. We never released that, did we?
We never did. I'll have to see if I can find it. If not, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ran into Paul Feig at New York Comic Con because he always wears a suit no matter where he goes.
Yeah.
So I'm dressed as Nightmare Batman from Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
And my wife is Bombshell Wonder Woman. So we're walking around Comic Con. I just stop. I was like, "Hey, is that Paul Feig?" And she's like, "Oh my God, that's Paul Feig." I was like, "Let's go get our picture." So we go over to Paul Feig and we're like, this is this year that Ghostbusters had come out. Yeah. So we go up to him and say, "Excuse me, can we get a picture? We're big fans." And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure. It's great." And so we get our picture. He tells my wife she looks great.
Yeah.
Doesn't say shit to me.
Of course.
And we say that we really enjoyed Ghostbusters. He's like, "Oh, thank you." And I was like, and I'm a huge fan of Heavyweights. Like, "Oh wow, no one ever says that. Thank you so much." Like he was so flattered that I knew what Heavyweights was.
Well, it's not just that. There's a lot of movies out there for people in our age range. So when I say that, I'm talking your like late to middle, like millennial type age right now. A lot of people like that movie, love that movie because it was a movie that teachers showed on Fridays.
Yeah.
Or on, days at the end of the semester. Like it was a movie that was safe to show in school.
Yeah, it is. I always watched it on like the Disney Channel.
It was also on Disney
Channel. So that's how I knew about it. Yeah. And then I own it on Blu-ray because they released a 20th anniversary of it a few years ago.
So a lot of people like that movie, but it's not a movie that's like heavy director name. Like there's movies out there that are popular where it's not the movie title that catches your attention. It's it's the name of the director. Like, oh my God, this was done by Lucas. Yeah. Doesn't matter what the name of it is, was done by Lucas.
Yeah.
Like that, like that's the type of.
And Heavyweights has a lot more talent behind the scenes than like they have the Heavyweights has the talent behind the scenes. Wet Hot American Summer has the talent on screen, like the young budding talent.
Was well, you already said who directed the movie, but did any of the actors have any were they involved in writing? Were they involved in anything besides acting?
I think there was some improv on set.
That would make sense.
Okay, so the movie was written by Michael Showalter, who played Coop, and David Wayne, the director. Okay. So that's where you get your writing. So Coop was involved a lot. I think there's a lot of improv in this.
I think so too.
Because I know Amy Poehler started with improv at UCB. Mm-hmm. So this is like that would be right in her wheelhouse. But yeah. So you mentioned Stabler.
Yes.
What did you think of him in a comedy?
That was actually my favorite part of the movie.
For anyone who doesn't watch Law and Order SVU, or let me correct that. Anyone who didn't watch Law and Order SVU 10 years ago and doesn't know who Elliot Stabler is.
Yes.
We're talking about Christopher Maloney, who's also can be found now on Happy on Sci-Fi.
Yes.
Where he has a little talking unicorn talking to him.
Because my wife is a big fan of SVU.
Yes.
And she watched it nonstop for so long and still does occasionally. And he was my favorite character in that show. Like, it's one of those things where she watches a show, I'm not that into it, but I typically find some storyline or some character that I do like that makes the show interesting for me.
Yeah.
And he was that person. And I always see him as a cop. Like, I see him as he's stubborn, thick-headed, but at the same time, he's still a little bit open-minded. Like, he's just kind of like a hard-nosed, like, wants to do the right thing cop. And then to see him in this, saying really weird things and going, "No, I didn't say that." Like, and then finally him talking to the can of mixed vegetables and telling him just to tell, just to tell the truth. And then his speech at the end, just, be who you are, be true to yourself. And then you have,
I'm gonna go hump this fridge.
I'm gonna go hump this fridge. And so the guy that's in the kitchen with him, who knows that he has issues because he was in Vietnam,
Yeah.
like brings the fridge over into a speech. He crawls on the thing in front of all the kids and starts humping the door handles, and he just wheels it away. Like, it was perfect.
What's great about like that scene is just the cuts of everyone's reactions.
Because everybody was happy for him. They were like, yeah.
They're
like,
confused.
At no point
like,
did anybody go like, this guy is weird. Like, even when he was saying the really, like,
yeah.
This is my friend. He's holding up the can of mixed vegetables. This is my friend.
In the prequel series, you get the origin of the can of vegetables. Yeah. Who's voiced by John Benjamin, who's Archer. And Bob's Burgers.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really like him in this movie, and he's in the show too.
Yeah.
He's in it a lot.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed him, you might have to check that out.
Like my favorite parts of the movie was with him. Everything that had to do with the married couple.
The Molly Shannon?
Yeah.
The arts and crafts?
Yeah. Him. So, like, them getting married and then the two bros seeing...
Oh, you're talking about the gay couple?
Yeah.
Okay.
The gay couple. And then you have, like, the two bros see them and they're like, dude! And then they come into the dining hall and they think that they're gonna, like, humiliate them, like haze them for being gay, but he's like, here, do you have this piece of furniture? It's like they're giving them a wedding gift.
Yeah, what's weird about that is they're like, oh my god, this will match the Afghan we just got. I'm like, it's still in the box. You don't know what it looks like.
Exactly. So I like their storyline. I like Stabler's storyline, and I was partial to the whole like assistant professor thing.
Yeah.
Like, the more they got into the whole thing with like some, for the space lab piece of debris coming down, like I was thinking to myself, like, is this serious or is he doing this to like make her last day fun? Like, I couldn't tell if it was like a wedding proposal or if it was a legit piece of space junk that was falling from the sky.
This movie, like, David Hyde Pierce is playing so against type because at this point he's about 10 years into, or like 8 years into Frasier.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've watched this movie since I went hard on watching Frasier.
Yeah.
Like, I'm probably past the point where he was when he made this movie.
Yeah.
In the show, but he's so different from Niles in this.
Yeah.
Like, Niles is very calm and collected and neurotic, whereas this guy's like, I said no, woman. Like, it's more Kelsey Grammer than anything.
Yeah, and that's where, like, it was that interaction that made me like that one. Legitly, everything else annoyed me.
Yeah.
To a point. I mean, granted, I'm a guy, and I'll admit, the visuals were good, but the storyline, not so much.
Oh, yeah, it's completely it's just ridiculous.
This movie was made for pretty much anybody between the ages of like 16 and like 23. That's what this is like just driven towards. Mainly men, I think.
Yeah.
Mainly males. But there were moments I liked, others I didn't. But unfortunately, besides those three storylines, the rest of the movie was just horny teenagers.
Yeah, because you have one literally running like 50 miles to go have sex.
Exactly. With a girl that only starts kissing people when they have bubble gum, when they chew gum.
I guess.
That was the thing. Because after she grabs his crotch, he drives out, telling her that he's going to be back. She's seen kissing 3 other guys, and each time, the first time, she does the whole gum thing again. And then the 2 other times, they're both chewing gum. So it's a really weird thing. And then at the very end of the movie, I don't even think anybody talks about how old they are until the very end, where she's like, I'm 16. And then that, like, that's a line where it's like, through everything that's happened in that movie, they never talk about age. They never bring up anything along those lines at all. They just have all this like drama going on with sex and making out and everything else. So then all of a sudden at the last part of the movie, oh, I'm 16. All I care about is sex. And you're like, oh my God, how old are some of these characters supposed to be, and what
they're all
doing?
Teenagers. Like it's a camp, so they're all teenagers. Like what I like about this movie is they really do play with the age thing, because you have all this ridiculous shit going down and they're supposed to be teenagers, but they're adults. Yeah. Like they're all in their 20s. And it gets even more ridiculous when they're all in their 40s playing 16-year-olds old. Like it's just ridiculous. And I think that word pretty much sums up this movie is ridiculous.
How many kids die in the camp on the last day? Because you have the one that drowns.
Yeah. And then
you have the one that drowned. 2 kids drown in this movie.
Yeah. And then I don't know what happens to the kids that Paul Rudd just shoves out of the van. I like that bit, because it's like, oh shit, I could get in trouble for this. I'm just going to murder another kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Get them out of here. Like
that. That's the part that I find hysterical. Was when it comes to Paul Rudd. Granted, I like Paul Rudd, and that was funny, but when it came to hit that whole drama, those were the only moments with him I really found funny. Was when, some kid would die because he's being a hornball, and then he decides to throw their friend out of the van going 30 miles an hour in the woods. Yeah. We're going to a pizza party. We're going to a pizza party. Out of the van.
One of my favorite moments is the motorcycle chase.
Oh yeah, when he stops at the hay bale.
Yeah, when he stops at the hay bale, he's like, "Oh no!" And then you've got Boyle from Brooklyn Nine-Nine on the motorcycle. Yeah, and he just stops, like, "Damn it, no!" Oh, yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to cover.
One thing I did like was how authentic they made it to the early 80s, late 70s.
Yes.
That's one thing I did like about this, especially with the nerd group, because you had the teenagers, and at one point, I didn't realize it at first, but then when they started doing like the group activity, like when it was after he spots the thing falling from the sky, the one kid dressed up from what was the name of the show? Robin Williams.
Mork and Mindy.
The one kid was dressed up as Mork from Mork and Mindy. Yellow shirt.
Yeah.
The rainbow suspenders.
Yeah, I know.
And then at the very end, he goes, "Nanu, nanu." Like that would make sense for that time period. Yeah. You would have a kid who was interested in science, would like the show Mork
who is credited as Mork Kid. Like that's his name in
Mork Kid.
Mork Kid.
I didn't even notice that.
I noticed that in the credits. Like, oh yeah, I guess that would be his name.
Yeah. Because all of the kids had a stereotype, like the directors did, like the camp director, the camp counselors, the kids. They all fit stereotypes, and each one was played, clothing and all, perfectly.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I did like about it.
Yeah, it's very accurate to camp experiences in that sense.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own little niche.
Yeah.
What niche did you fall into as a camper?
Well, with scouts, it's kind of hard to fall into a niche, but because everybody's almost dressed the same.
Yeah.
Because the difference between, I think, what people who went to camps like this compared to scouting, camp was fun. You had the waterfront, you had the shooting ranges, you had scoutcraft, you had the high adventure posts, you had the weird hikes to go on. That you're like, especially up in the Poconos, there was a called the muck hike, where you walk through a swamp up to your neck in muck. You come back looking like Swamp Thing. So think of like 150 kids coming back covered to head to toe in mud, and all you can see is their eyes.
Wow.
So things like that. And you go, and the big thing is merit badges. Like that's when you can get a ton of merit badges at one time. So you have the kids that are dead set on getting Eagle, which I was. So I saw it like a fun summer school. There really weren't cliques per se because you were in your troop.
Okay.
So whatever niche you were in your troop, those like the same kids you hung out with every Thursday or Friday at the scout meetings were the same kids you hung out at camp with.
Now, when you were a counselor, was that the same deal? Is there cliques when the counselors?
Was a little different because everybody you had you. Here's the thing: you're employed.
Yeah.
So if you cause trouble, you're fired.
Yeah.
That simple. So by the second week, all of the troublemakers were gone, and even though there were like 17 of us or 20 of us, we were just one group. Like you had like these two guys were best friends before they came. You know, these two guys are family, or these three or four from the same, these two are brothers and then those two are their cousins. So like you had that, so like they would go off on their own. But other than that, like you kind of just stuck with your bunkmate. But then because like every week you had your night off, it was random people every week.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a chance to get that niche together. I mean, you did have the people working in the same areas. So like you had all the guys that worked waterfront were a bit closer to each other than, I worked the rifle range when I was a counselor. So I was close to the guy that did shotgun and the woman that taught archery. So I was close to them. But at the same time, like I didn't hang out with them any more than the guys at waterfront.
Okay.
So.
All right.
We did do a massive water gun fight one night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the entire camp was involved.
Oh, nice.
We did and I had the biggest water gun because I, of course, if I'm going to get a water gun, I'm going to get the Super Soaker XL that has a double barrel and the strap that you have to put around your shoulder that has the tripod that sticks out of the bottom. We had a golf cart, and the camp director, the camp assistant director, two of the waterfront guys were sitting on the back of it, and they were driving the thing, trying to go full speed. And this thing was set to go like 4, maybe 5, like not that fast. Like So they're driving the thing, and they've got water tanks and stuff on it, and they're driving it. And the idea was that they were going to drive around a waterfront because the other team's base was in not the parade field where the flag was, but there was another field that was open in between the parade field and waterfront.
Yeah.
The idea was to get down to waterfront with them, and I wanted to go along, but I couldn't fit, and go around and get them from the back because it was kind of like a capture the flag type deal. So we're at night. So they're driving, and there were 3 of us that wanted to go, but we couldn't get seats on it, so we couldn't. So I just started running alongside of it, not knowing that the thing had a governor on it that held it at like 3-4 miles an hour or slower than that.
Yeah.
So I start running next to it, and it's a good maybe quarter of a mile from where we were to where the waterfront was.
Yeah.
At that time, I was hiking all the time, being outside in the heat, so I was in better shape than I am now. I kept up with it, and I noticed the flashlight came over like on the side of my face at one point, and the camp director's like, "Dude, he's a robot, no expression." And then the kid in the back goes, "What?" And he goes, "Dude, he looks like the liquid Terminator. No expression on his face at all," because I'm keeping pace with them driving in the golf cart. And I'm just holding this massive water gun full of water.
Yeah.
Keeping up with them, like right where the seats were. Now, granted, by the time we got to waterfront, I was winded. Like I was like, "Hang on, guys." Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
But that's like, it's fun.
I can't remember any camp stories. Like I feel like we did do water gun fights or water balloon fights or something and capture the flag. I don't remember any of it. Yeah. One thing I do remember about camp is I went to a day camp once, and I missed the first day because my mom forgot about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how the hell you forget that you signed your kid up for camp, but I'm still kind of bitter about it.
Yeah.
Because they went to a baseball game that first day. So everyone made friends the first day.
And then
and I came in the second day like, "Oh, hey, everybody."
Yeah.
And then like, who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah.
So
I think the one I just had a flash, and I don't know if this was junior leader. No, this was junior leadership training when I was on the staff for that.
yeah,
So you had the kids in their patrols, and they had to create a water balloon catapult. And we put their catapults in a circle facing each other. So it was hot out. So we decided, oh, they'll make this catapults and as a team, and then they can just launch them at each other. Well, how do we do this? Do we want them on teams, like separate them in like a solid line? Like, no, let's have it be a circle. So, and they were like, oh, let's up the ante because we were, hot, and we decided to break out our water guns, and we would be standing in the middle of the circle. And as they were trying to launch water balloons at each other, we'd be spraying them with the water guns. And so there's a good picture of me somewhere, and I forget if I have my shirt on or not because I completely forgot. But I'm wearing, I think, baggy pants, not UFOs, but close. It gives you the time period.
yeah.
And I've got my giant water gun that's about 3.5, 4 feet long. That's got the double barrel and the tripod underneath it. And for some reason, I had in my pack a surgical mask. Like the N95 masks that people wear when they got the flu or in the hospital or whatever. It's got the metal thing to pinch over your nose. Yeah. And I'm wearing that. No idea why. It's just because I had it and I figured, well, be intimidating, I guess. But at the same time, like, why?
Yeah.
I was still a teenager at that point. It was silly stuff. I don't know where I know there's a picture of it. I just don't know where it is.
Okay, before we wrap this up, I do want to bring up something that is a thing now that wasn't a thing probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
There are summer camps for adults.
Yeah.
And I looked into them, and they're not that expensive.
Oh, God. Yeah, but how long? Is it a weekend, a week, the whole summer?
They do weekends and they do weeks. Because I think the thought process is adults have to work, so they can maybe get a week's vacation, but not like a whole summer.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I kind of want to do this. And my wife's like, I only want to go to one that has the blob from Heavyweights. So I found one that is pretty much just that. Like, you've got all the water stuff. You've got hiking. You've got the archery and all of that. Yeah. I was like, I really want to do this. So next year we might be doing this. Because she's never gone to camp. And she's very upset about that.
Yeah.
But and before we go, I want to apologize for my voice because evidently it's not back like I thought it was. Like, I'm still sick.
I didn't even realize.
I can tell in my voice. I might cut this out if it doesn't sound bad.
You sound tired. That's about
it. I'm tired. I just woke up, so that doesn't help. But yeah, so I was saying, like, I want to go to camp next year, and we should see if Brian and Kristen want to go too.
I'll talk to her.
Yeah. Because I think that'd be fun. Go for a week.
It would be.
There's a Wet Hot American Summer themed one. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be shooting up heroin.
No.
But they also, like, part of it, like, everything's included, like you would at camp. So
like
food and
activities.
Yeah,
else.
And then you can add on for some alcohol.
That's just a bad idea.
Yeah, it is.
But fun.
Yeah.
I can see that being fun.
But yeah, if I could plan out for next summer that we all go to camp, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. That would be.
Let's do it.
I'll talk to her about it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. So, would you recommend this movie?
I mean, I would. I mean, it's one of those things that there are movies that even if you end up not wanting to see again or not liking, at the same time, like there was a lot of talent that started in this.
Yeah.
And I think there's some talent in it that are big because they were able to use this in their portfolio to get other gigs to finally launch themselves. Like there's a few people in this that like this has to be their first thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know it's definitely Bradley Cooper's.
Yeah.
As far as anyone else, I don't know. There's a whole documentary on it on Netflix as well.
Yeah.
So, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you might not know what you're getting into if you haven't seen it before, but hopefully we did a good job of telling you.
It's corny.
It's corny. It's ridiculous. It's obscure.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. So check out Wet Hot American Summer. It's on Netflix.
Yep.
Along with its
Counterparts.
Wet Hot American Summer, first day of camp, and 10 years later. That's all I've got.
I'm good.
For you have to watch this, I'm Alan.
And I'm Ryan.
And we'll see you next week.
Mm-hmm. It's hot.
Yes.